Hi, Bethany Wilson here from Doggercise Dog Training. Now, when you're talking about leaving a brand new puppy at home or potty training, there are many different methods you can use. I'm sure you can go online and you'll find a million different options. And it's really about finding what's best for you in your particular situation. And it also depends on the breed and size of your dog, of course. I'm going to give you just what I've learned best that works for me. Doesn't mean that it's going to work the best for you and your situation, but hopefully this at least can give you some ideas. So depending on the type of puppy, that you have is going to, is going to help you figure out what kind of setup you need. Also how long you're going to be gone for. So I'm just going to give you my opinions on the matter. This is a playpen, really simple playpen. You can get the fancy ones that actually have a door. This one doesn't. It's just a plain gate that what you can do is how you attach it is you just get a clip and you clip it on, three clips, top, middle, bottom. You just go to Lowe's or go to some hardware store and get the clips. They look just like on the leashes, like the end of a leash, except without the leash, of course. Don't use just carabiners because even with small puppies, you've got this much of a gap with carabiners holding them together. They can get their head through. So it definitely has to be really tight. So either go all out and zip tie them, or get those clips from Lowe's or Home Depot or somewhere, some hardware store. Okay, so when I would use a playpen is during the day when I can't, or in evening when I can't watch the puppy. A puppy under 16 weeks old will have numerous accidents if you're not watching them 24/7. It's like having a toddler running around the house without any clothes on. That's the equivalent of that. So unless the puppy is tethered to you or in a small room where you can watch the puppy the whole time, you're going to want to have him in a place where he can still feel like he's part of the family, but not be able to run off. So when I'm home, this is where the puppy is if I'm not able to watch her. Now, as you can see, I have an old blanket down. That's just in case she does have an accident. Even though I'm taking her out every hour to 2 hours to build up that potty training repetitiveness, she still has room to move around. She could still easily have an accident. So, and she bites puppy pads, so I'm not going to leave puppy pads in here. But at least she has this blanket where it's not going to get directly onto my carpet, and I'm home. So I'm going to see it pretty much right away. So it's probably not going to get through to my carpet or my flooring. So that's why I like to put an old blanket under here. That, again, this is stuff that I've found that works for me. Okay, I have a slight revision to that. After having the puppy for a few days, I found out that she doesn't actually chew and tear apart and ingest the puppy pads where they can be dangerous. She truly just plays with them occasionally. So I started putting puppy pads down 24/7. That way there was no doubt that it wasn't going to hit my carpet. So I just wanted to add that in there because, again, it's another situation where it depends on your puppy. And then one more thing, and then I'll get back to the video, is that I found out that this puppy doesn't know how to hold her potty at all, and which makes sense because she was in a kennel for a while and at the vet in a kennel. So she 20-30 minutes tops, she'll hold it. So I got to where I crated her all the time, and she doesn't hardly ever get any time in her playpen. It's very constructive. She's either walking, playing with me constructively, like fetch and fun stuff, playing with the dogs for short periods of time, training, and then back in crate, because I have to use the crate to actually teach her how to hold her pee. Oh, it's been fun. but you're gonna run into those things, so I thought I would mention it. The way to teach the puppy to actually hold their pee is to keep them in a crate where it's only big enough for them to stand up, turn around, lay down, and stretch out a little, because if there's any more room than that, they're gonna potty. This is a really good setup if you are gone for a long period of time and your puppy's not crate trained yet, and it's a really small puppy, she is too big to leave alone, like me go to work in this pen, because she can actually reach out over the top, and she's so motivated that I have no doubt she'd climb up and over like that, maybe knock it down, maybe get her paw stuck, something like that. So this will work for like Shih Tzu puppies, Maltese puppies, or if she was only 8 weeks old instead of 14 weeks old, I could leave her in here, but I would prefer to use a crate. It's safer, so you just got to be prepared to do that crate training right away. Okay, so let's talk about the crate. This crate is huge. This is a really big crate. When it comes to puppies, I know that they're going to need to potty every few hours. Even though she can go through the night in a small crate and not potty, it's different during the day. It just is. So, especially when they're that young. So what I would do if I'm going to be gone for more than 2 or 3 hours, I'll let her be in a bigger crate, and I'll section it off with a puppy pad and an old towel. An old towel because 1, she's likely going to soil on it. That's just the way it is. And 2, she's probably going to chew it up. So I'm not going to go buy some really nice bed because I'm excited for my new puppy, because it's going to be a pile of fluff. Now another thing I like to do is get an attached water bowl that you can get on Amazon, and I'm going to have a link for this down below. The reason I like it to be attached is because they sit in their water bowls, they dump them over, they make big messes of water bowls. She's big enough to where she can drink out of it high, but if she was a puppy, or a smaller puppy or a smaller breed dog, I would have it on the lower tier. I would still do this version because, again, they'll knock it over, they'll paw it over, and then it'll just be an entire wet area with a knocked over water bowl the whole time you're gone. So I really like having these attached water bowls. I prefer the rubber ones. They're really nice. You can actually fold them up flat up against the crate itself. Now what I would leave her with in here is 1 toy and 1 bone. Now I'm a big advocate of leaving 1 toy and 1 bone with puppies when you leave, or a Kong filled with some goodies. Only 1, because just like kids, puppies do get bored sometimes with toys. Not all the time, not all puppies, but most puppies I come across, they get bored. So it's really nice to kind of have a toy rotation. Just make sure it's a safe toy, not a really thin toy that they can just pull apart and eat fluff. And if you're the least bit worried about that, once they hit that 5-month mark where they start teething, if they're really destroying things, then they don't have to be left with anything. Don't feel bad for them. It's perfectly fine. Give them the exercise that they need before you leave for work, and then you can start looking into Kongs to put their food in, to really get them working for food. So this is obviously a medium-sized dog. This is not a puppy size, but you can start giving them Kongs if you're afraid they'll chew up their toys and ingest any fluff. Now, if your puppy is actually shredding blankets, not just mouthing, but shredding blankets and possibly ingesting it, then no blanket, no puppy pad, no nothing. That's perfectly fine until your puppy gets out of that chewing phase. Some puppies are just really into chewing. That's just all there is to it. Now, if I'm sleeping at night, or if I'm only going to be gone a couple hours, I'm going to put a divider. They usually come with the crate. This one is, the divider's around here somewhere. But I'm going to put a divider in the crate so the puppy only has enough space to lay down and turn around. And then, of course, stand up in, which obviously she can in this tall crate. But they just need enough space to be able to lay down and turn around. That's it. Otherwise, I guarantee they will potty in their crate. They still may potty, but you lessen the chances when it's a smaller crate. So those are my tips. Is there anything else? There is one other thing that I would like to mention before I let you guys go. If you do have a smaller breed dog and maybe they're having trouble with the crate, or you haven't had a chance to crate train them and you're allowing them to stay in an exercise pen, if they're in the house and you care about your carpet, you're going to have to not only put an old blanket down, but you're going to take puppy pads and you're going to cover the entire space with puppy pads. The only exception is if your puppy will not just chew on them but actually eat them, then you need to email me and ask me about that. But you want to cover the whole space with puppy pads except for a small space where you can just put their water. And the reason that you want to do that is it only takes a few times of a puppy going to the bathroom on carpet or on wood to where when you leave, to where that becomes a habit. It becomes an option, and it's not their fault. They can't help themselves. Even older dogs that you bring in from maybe a rescue shelter, you have to revamp the potty training phase because they don't know. So just by putting the puppy pads down, it gives them a different surface that they're going on top of, which will make it less likely that they'll have accidents on your carpet and on your floors and things like that. Okay, so what you can do if you're in the situation where you're just putting puppy pads down in like an entire laundry room, you know, with a baby gate, is you can after like a couple of weeks remove one puppy pad and see if they go in that space without the puppy pad. They probably won't. And then a week later, remove another puppy pad. And you do this until you're down to just one puppy pad. So you don't always have to live in crazy puppy pad land. you can actually train them to go on the puppy pad. If you come home and they've had an accident in a space that you just opened up, you just spend a few more days with the puppy pad back in that spot. Wait a few more days and then remove it again and see what happens. Something I forgot to mention is if you have somewhere in your house that has linoleum, just use that to put puppy pads down on. You don't have to worry about the blanket. Again, the blanket is just my preference. If you are stuck putting your puppy on hardwood or on carpet, that's why that way it's an extra layer of protection underneath the puppy pads. Now I also want to put something else out there, is that most of the puppies that I have worked with that I crate train, they prefer being in their crate versus in their playpen. It's because it makes it more cozy for them, and they just go in and lay down and maybe munch on their bone and wait for you to get home, versus when they have the playpen, they're moving around a lot and they get more worked up. They think about jumping on the playpen, which is something that they may not necessarily think about if you've crate trained them properly. I do suggest that when you're home, you keep your puppy in the playpen, but you've got to understand, if you go in another room, your puppy is likely to whine. And that's a whole nother issue as far as how to deal with that, but I'm just trying to give you these things so you know what's coming, basically. Because I'm telling you, when you start having your puppy walk around and they're not perfectly potty trained yet, you're going to have accidents. Do not get a puppy if you absolutely cannot handle having accidents ever, because it's just not going to happen. The only time that people are really successful with no accidents is if they have some sort of patio space or laundry room that has that tile flooring, so they don't get really angry when the puppy does potty on the puppy pad and it goes through, on top of the linoleum. And they do not have anything to do with the puppy in the main part of the house until the puppy is completely potty trained. So they would only work with it in their space or in the backyard, and they don't even give the puppy access to the rest of the house until they're potty trained. That is truly the only way
to avoid accidents, because they're gonna happen. I get so many calls, guys, so many calls about people even wanting to give up their dogs because of the potty issues, especially if you adopt an older puppy or buy an older puppy, or you rescue a dog that maybe was an outside dog and they're not potty trained, and then it's even worse, because if they're used to marking their territory, they'll do that in the house. So I understand the frustration, but I'm here to tell you it's gonna happen. So you got to come up with a way to be able to deal with it. Me, I've got a steam cleaner, and I'm ready with my steam vac to do what I need to do. That's the best piece of advice that I can give you. And if you have any questions, you can definitely email me at info@doggersizela.com.